Hello, gang. Welcome to the It's Giving Mystical podcast. Welcome to your weekly podcast, your podcast for the week ahead, the week of June 13th, Friday the 13th. Very fitting that we're going to pull the Nine of Wands on Friday the 13th. But just to take a second to honor this full moon, I don't know what the moon was like by you, but when I was driving home from Full Moon Circle, it was enormous in the sky and it was bright red. I actually gasped when I turned the corner and saw it. So I hope you got to glimpse that moon. And I don't know if it was because of the wildfire smoke in the atmosphere, but it was giving blood moon rising on Zelda. And it was very dramatic and very beautiful. One of those moments when you look at nature and you think, are you kidding? Like, who's in charge around here? It's so beautiful. The Sagittarius full moon came through in our circle was the invitation for this to be a truth-telling full moon, for you to really check in with the places where the truth just isn't given priority. So where comfort might be given priority, or habit might be given priority, or appeasement might be given priority over the truth. And Sagittarius can be really blunt energy. That truth-telling can get them in trouble. It's a stereotype of Sagittarian energy. Lived it daily with my mother and my brother. But they would say the craziest things and you'd be like, what'd you just do? And they were like, it's true. And just because it's true doesn't mean you have to say it. And that's a distinction too, right? Me speaking the truth doesn't mean I always have to say everything that's true. And there's a distinction between those two things. I'll let you tease that one out yourself. But the Sagittarian energy in its most beautiful form is like a search for truth, a search for meaning, a search for learning and exploration. It's the sign of travel and foreign lands and foreign languages and higher learning. And so there's this really beautiful seeking, searching energy with the Sagittarian full moon. And this element of truth-telling is definitely present with us. I invite you to become aware of the moment we're in, which is the great reshuffling that just keeps coming up. It keeps being the language that I hear. And the card last week, that message that came from the Tower of the system is stretched to capacity and it wants to take in more energy. And so the system is adjusting, the system is straining, and something is going to give, something is going to either evolve or break down. But that feels very true. It feels very true in individual bodies, individual lives. It feels true in our communities. It feels true globally. And while that can feel destabilizing because it inherently is, it is also, from in my perspective, hopeful. The system hasn't worked for everyone. The system, the way we run our own systems, the way we run our community systems, the way we run our global systems, it has not really sung to the highest octave. So is it possible that part of this transformation is trying to evolve us into something different? I believe that. So the invitation around this full moon is to stay with you, right? Come back to you, check in with you, and just notice where truth is out of alignment, where you're out of integrity, and offer it up to the full moon. It's not too late to write this down, burn it with the intention of, or bury it in the ground, or release it organically into the sea or into a river, to say like this story, this edit, this secret, this lie even was something that I did or I carried or I experienced. It doesn't define who I am, and I'm ready to make peace with it. I'm ready to say thank you for the lesson and release it so that I can untangle those energetic knots in my own system so that naturally more capacity appears. Naturally, I have more room to run energy through my system. But this idea of saying what's true, it's just so important. I cannot overstate what it does for you energetically, how it grounds you in your body when you know that your life is one that is true. Life becomes much easier when the editing is reduced to a minimum and you just are who you are. You say what's true. There's something very peaceful about that. On the full moon, because it's a Sagittarian full moon, because we have the Jupiter transit that just happened into Cancer, there is this kind of Jupiter energy around. Jupiter is big and beautiful and bountiful, and it can also be excessive. So noticing wherever Cancer is in your chart, checking in with that, but also recognizing that there's a lot of wind at your back between the full moon, so the beautiful light of the moon, and the passion of the Sagittarius. There's just momentum here. And I invite you to use it to your advantage. And I really feel it as a clarifying, truth-telling full moon. The other thing that came up last night in circle is it's a beautiful full moon for cord cutting. It's a beautiful full moon to say, I'm complete with this connection. I'm complete with holding an energetic anchor for this person, this thing, this experience. And I really invite you to explore, and Stephen would say, become a self-referencing shaman in regards to the energetics of a cord cutting ceremony. You could find a million examples of cord cutting ceremonies online. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt your ability to do this in a way that feels good. Create your own ceremony around this. And I was saying there's many ways to do a cord cutting, right? You hear it like in a relational sense, and that's important. I've done cord cuttings relationally, but I did a cord cutting recently that was a clarification of all energy I had stored in my body from past romantic partners. And I did it not only for myself, but for my mother and for her mother. So I did a cord cutting that released all remnant energetic ties or anchors that existed in my womb space, but also existed in the womb space of my mother and my grandmother. It was powerful. So I invite you to get creative with what is keeping you from truth, what is keeping you from that higher expression, what's keeping you from that passion, that Sagittarian passion that wants to put you out on the road to live this life, to be in the world, to be of the world. There's something that you are holding or carrying that no longer fits this version of you, no longer fits the skin. I invite you to play with that, play with ritual and ceremony around that. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try, and understand that your intention is so much of what matters and all of that. So yes, truth-telling, cord cutting, all of these things are with us for this full moon. And the card I pulled for us this week is the Nine of Wands. We've seen this pretty recently. When I pulled it, I was kind of like, why didn't we just talk about this? This is the card of the wounded warrior. So wands are our fire, our intuition, our sexuality. Speaking of womb cord cutting, it's our sexuality, it's our creativity, it's our fire, our light. The wands are fire. Sagittarius is fire that is here with us. And the nines are a sense of completion, a sense of, I want to be done with this. I want to learn to do this in a new way. Something is evolving and coming to rest, coming to completion, coming to conclusion. The Nine of Wands, we call it the card of the wounded warrior because to reach the Nine of Wands, you have walked some road, you've covered some miles, and you've had to face a lot of conversations around how you wield, how you hold, how you contain your fire, your light, your creativity, right? Again, your sexuality, your vive, like your get up and go. How do you manage that? How do you hold that? How do you cultivate that? How do you protect that? And the nine is, I've walked this road and it hasn't been easy. The thing to remember about wands, which I'm sure you've heard me say before, is the more you have, so the wands are at their easiest when you have only one, when you have the ace. Like that's the sexiest, easiest, lightest wand. And then as you gather more wands, it becomes more complicated. It's just a fact. You're not meant to hold it all. You're meant to let wand energy move, circulate, fly free. And the nine is, he's planted these 8 wands in the ground, and now he stands here with his 9th wand, wounded, weary, and reviewing the road, like kind of looking at the road ahead. A couple things to know about the 9 of Wands is aho to where you are, like a recognition of what it's taken for you to arrive here. And it came up a couple weeks ago too. Are you really taking stock of the fact that this life that you're living, and I hope there's parts of it that feel really beautiful and fruitful to you, it didn't show up on accident. Like it didn't show up by accident. You worked for this. You fought for this. There's some aspect of your life that you fought really hard for, be it a relationship, an environment, a location, a career, a family dynamic, a sense of freedom, a sense of safety, like something you fought very hard for in your life. I hope you acknowledge that. I hope you appreciate that. I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope you speak kindly to yourself, and I hope you wash yourself in gratitude for that. The most fundamental challenge with the 9 of Wands is, what will we do now? So maybe life hasn't been easy. Maybe we've had to fight really hard to get to where we are. What are you going to do now? And I've talked about this before, but in the Mother Piece deck, she has the array of wands behind her. She's naked and vulnerable, but she has this beautiful array of power behind her because she's come to a place of, I know who I am. Like if the battle shows up at my door, if the fight comes to my door, I know who I am. I know how I will handle that. The Rider-Waite tarot, the traditional tarot, he looks exhausted, but he's also on this kind of like hyper vigilant routine that he's having a hard time relaxing. He's having a hard time trusting himself. He looks to the road with a weariness, like I know the next battle's coming and I'm exhausted, versus maybe the next battle's coming, but I'm ready. And this is a different way of holding that wounded warrior energy. And when I sat with the card, because I really did, when I pulled it, I thought, well, we've seen this recently. And when I pulled it again, the thing that came up was like, check your armor and check your grip. There was this very visceral feeling of him standing in the road and being a little bit banged up and gripping that wand so tightly. And again, we don't want to grip fire energy tightly. We want to let it fly and burn and warm us and take the next shape it's going to take, bring out the transformation, the transmutation. That is our exploration for the week ahead. Let's notice where we're gripping. Let's notice how we're reviewing the road ahead. What's our stance in regards to life right now? Where do we feel like this sense of armoring up, of getting ready for battle, versus the sense of dropping into our power and really being grateful for the versions of us that have gotten us here, really trusting what comes next. And the check your armor thing was really interesting because in my mind's eye, it was like noticing what's dented in the armor and taking the time to renew the armor. So maybe you need to take some dings out of that. Maybe you need to shine it up. Maybe you need to retire it and put on something lighter. We're awakening the lover energy, the lover archetype, the lover current in Mystic Rising right now. And so much of that is tied into awakening and checking in with and connecting to our warrior, because the lover is the one that wants to merge with the whole world, right? All the boundaries disappear. I am safe to just be fully present, to let the world make love to me in every moment. I can only do that if I have a trustable warrior in my own being, right? I can only do that if I know that I'm safe to do that, if I live a life in which I'm safe to do that. If my needs are met, my boundaries are protected, then I can relax and soften into the deepest part of my lover. That is true relationally, but even just if we just stay with ourselves, it's also true. So there's just this important dialogue that's always happening between our lover, the part of us that feels pleasure and ease and feels sexy and feels good, with the part of us that is clear and creates safety and checks the boundaries and understands the boundary line and knows when to pull back and knows when to move forward. And so this idea of check your armor is just interesting, right? Like notice where it's been banged up. If we use armor as a metaphor for the boundary line, for the ways that we have to self-protect. And then the other sensation was that gripping of the wand. And I can just feel that there's an overprotection here. Like you might be wearing armor, you might be gripping that wand, you might be standing at the boundary line in a way that's old. You might be approaching your life, especially as it kind of ebbs and flows. You might find yourself fall back into habit around tightness, around fear, around hypervigilance, around, the part of you that's a wounded warrior, the part of you that's like, I'm tired, I fought this, like I'm done fighting. And there's an invitation to reevaluate how you arm yourself, how you stand at the boundary line. And I was thinking about that this week. June is always busy for me. It's end of school year. I have 3 children and then lots of birthdays. And every year it's shocking how busy it is. And I had 2 of my best friends from college in town at different times. So it's just been one thing after another. And normally I would feel really overwhelmed by that. And I know what it would feel like in the past. In the past, it would feel like I had to arm myself up or push through. And I would get very tight and grumpy and just intense about all of it. And because we're activating the lover in Mystic Rising, I've been thinking about that a lot. And this idea of letting life seduce you, letting life flirt with you, letting yourself be carried away by the lover that life is. And that includes the dynamic nature of it. It includes the movement and the busyness and the excitement. And so I've walked through this early part of this month with just more softness and more trust in, I know I can handle it. Like these are good problems to have. like busy, happy, fun times is a good thing. I'm very lucky in this moment, feel very blessed at this moment in my life. And at the same time, you have habits around it that feel overwhelming. But because my warrior is healthier, my lover is healthier, I know I'm okay. I know that I've built a life that is a safe one so that I can surrender and relax into the busyness. I can float in the ocean of the busyness, knowing that I'm okay. And then that same busyness, that same overwhelm can start to feel good, can start to feel like, what a beautiful life, can start to feel like, here I am in this new place and unexpected, and this is happening, or this conversation or this adventure is happening, and I get to be here for it, be fully here for it. We really rob ourselves of so much of that love or energy, of that joy, of that pleasure, when we don't feel safe and relaxed in a larger way in our lives. So that's just the invitation for this week, is to become aware of how you're arming yourself, where you are extra defensive, where you are looking down the road waiting for the next battle to fight, the next confrontation, and just checking in on whether that feels appropriate, whether that feels like that's what's happening now, or whether that feels like that might be old programs running. And I think part of the invitation between the Tower and the June month and the Nine of Wands is to reevaluate how we've armored ourselves up, and to reevaluate if there's like a new lighter material maybe you could make your armor out of. Notice if you could grip your weapons a little less tightly. Just having a sense of, am I fighting right now? Am I being attacked right now? And if not, what's happening? And even if things are tense, is there pleasure to be had here? Is there joy to be had here? Am I over relying on my warrior? Am I over relying on the part of me that's been fighting for so long? Yeah, take that with you. Journal or have this thought around the armor you wear, the weapons you carry, and whether they still feel like they fit you. Like maybe you're a new version of you. Maybe you move differently, you walk differently in the world, and you can arm yourself differently. You can have a different sense of the boundaries. Okay, cool. Next week, I'm going to release a conversation that Nina and I had together. And for those of you that don't know Nina, she's a brilliant teacher and healer and magic maker. She's just written a beautiful book on reclaiming your inner child. It's a companion to her incredible oracle deck. And we're going to have a conversation about what she's been up to, what this book is about, and then her experiences in shaman school, her experiences with walking the wheel in shamanism, and what that awakened and opened up for her, and how in many ways it created a version of her that was brave enough to release this incredible book and light up the road for so many of us in terms of befriending and understanding the power of our inner parts, in particular our inner child. So we'll talk about that next week. And otherwise, if you want to join us in Mystic Rising, always happy to have you. We're going to be doing Siren energy, awakening the Siren current in July, which is our first real foray into dark feminine energy. Love that. Excited about that. And otherwise, yeah, just hope you're well. Send lots of love. And yeah, check your armor, man. Check your armor. Bye.